After the resounding success of Mario Kart 64, the Mario Kart series was perfectly poised for its return on the Gamecube, but Nintendo didn't want to just reinvent the wheel. After all, each previous entry had done something different with the formula. Super Mario Kart kicked off the whole franchise, Mario Kart 64 brought it into the third dimension, and Super Circuit let you play it on the go. A graphical update alone wasn't going to cut the mustard here, but the problem was, the Gamecube didn't really have any flashy gimmicks like motion controls or stereoscopic 3D to speak of. So, what was Nintendo's answer? Mario Kart Double Dash's main mechanic was allowing you to race with not one, but two characters per kart, one in the front and one in the back. Due to this, every character needed a partner, and as such, the roster of this game was massively expanded upon from Mario Kart 64 and Super Circuits. To this day, it introduced the most newcomers out of any mainline title in the series, and it's where we saw so many characters that now feel like mainstays make their debuts, like Daisy, Birdo, Diddy Kong, Waluigi, and Bowser Jr. Heck, Toad didn't even have a partner, so they just decided, screw it, let's just invent Toadette. We even got a completely new pairing in the form of P.T. Piranha and King Boo, and honestly, these guys are so out of left field, but I'm kind of in love with it. Bowser aside, being able to play as boss characters in the Mario spin-offs wasn't widely done at the time, so to have two of them playable at once was so novel back then. Of course, you don't have to stick to the pre-assigned character combinations. Oh no, you can mix and match them to your heart's content. My go-to was always my boy Diddy Kong with all of his DK64 sound effects, and the man, the myth, the legend, Paratrooper, who is also the only character who hasn't reappeared since Double Dash. Please bring my boy back. Free Paratrooper, man. What did he do to deserve this? While your character choice in Mario Kart has always had some degree of influence on the gameplay, it's arguably more important than it's ever been in Double Dash. This is because the selection of karts that you have access to depends on the weight classes of the team that you choose. Characters in karts can be broken down into three classes, those being heavy, medium, and lightweights, and essentially, you can only use karts from the weight class of the heavier partner in your team. For example, if you're using a lightweight and a middleweight, you can only use middleweight karts, or if you're using a middleweight and a heavyweight, you can only use heavyweight karts. Typically, the lighter karts excel in acceleration and handling, while the heavier ones are better in terms of top speed, so your ideal character combination will vary depending on your desired playstyle. Karts aren't the only thing that factor into this decision, however. One of the coolest parts of this game is that each character has their own unique item as well. On top of the expected green shells, bananas, and mushrooms, you've got the fireballs for the Mario Brothers, the giant banana for the Kongs, and the Bowser shell for Bowser and Jr. Some items which were previously accessible to anyone, like the triple shells and the golden mushrooms, were made exclusive to the Koopas and Toads respectively, while others, like Wario and Waluigi's Bob-omb, later went on to become staples of the item selection. The most powerful special item has to be the Chain Chomp though, which belongs to Baby Mario and Baby Luigi for some reason. This was almost like a precursor to the Bullet Bill, being the comeback item that drags you forward on a warpath, taking out any other races that dare to stand in its way. The key difference that separates it from the Bullet Bill is that it doesn't grant you invincibility. This means that if you get hit while the Chain Chomp is active, it'll go rogue, leaving you behind and destroying everyone up ahead. Now, you might look at this selection and say that there's a huge disparity between how good some of these items are, which would make some characters obsolete. I mean, in most cases, you'd much rather have a Chain Chomp than a giant banana, right? Well, as is the case with the rest of the items, the positions that you can get the special items in varies. Like, you're only going to usually land yourself a Chain Chomp when you're lagging behind to help you catch up, and when you're in first place, you're a lot more likely to get the giant banana, which is a solid defensive item to help maintain your lead. Each special item serves a purpose, so you can't really go wrong no matter which characters that you go for. This also adds an interesting strategic element to the gameplay, as only the character in the back is able to use items. However, if you pick up a double item box, the character who's driving can also hold an item, but to use it, you need to switch them around. Depending on the situation, you'll want a different item to hand, so you need to react accordingly to what's going on the road around you. This is only heightened in the game's co-op mode, where one player takes control of each character. To do well here, you need to be in sync, so you can make the right swaps at the right time. You also have to factor in that the person in the back is thrown straight from just handling items and mini-turbos into the driver's seat, so they need to be ready. You can just pass the items back to your buddy, but come on. The chaos of switching around around constantly is way more fun, as if you make one screw up, it can completely annihilate your chances of winning. It's a real test of teamwork and honestly a blast to do with a friend. Just bear in mind that they're not guaranteed to stay your friend afterwards. I'm surprised that we haven't seen any kind of cooperative multiplayer in the future Mario Kart games, but Double Dash also had the traditional style of good old versus races and battle mode too. The battle maps featured here are so elite, man. You've got Pipe Plaza, Luigi's Mansion, and even the top of a Gamecube. Now, while this is neat and all, what's probably more important in a Mario Kart game is the track selection, and man, they cooked with Double Dash. Sure, there are only 16 courses with 4 cups of 4 tracks, but they are straight bangers. This has got to be one of, if not the most consistent rosters of tracks we've seen in the whole series. Even in the Mushroom Cup, the very first track, which typically are known for being simple and uninteresting, is surprisingly, well, interesting. The main reason being that at one point in the track, the frontrunners of the race cross paths with the back of the pack. This means that there's a lot of potential for chaos, as the power items from the people trailing behind can freely interact with the leaders. Admittedly, Peach Beach is a pretty mellow course, but it's not bad by any stretch and has a couple of interesting alternate paths. It also introduces one of Double Dash's weirder features, which involves this warp pipe. It's sort of out of the way on the side of the course and shoots you out of another pipe, where you get a double item box. There's one of these on Mushroom Bridge too, and neither of them are particularly worth taking since they're too long-winded, but hey, neat that they're there. Then you've got Baby Park, and oh boy. To use a Britishism here, it really is the Marmite of Mario Kart tracks, isn't it? You either love it or you hate it. Me personally, I can confidently say that I am in the former camp, and I fully embrace the chaos of this track. I think it's at its best in this game. While the Mario Kart 8 remake is super fun and the DS one is... Actually, yeah, let's not talk about that one. I think there's a certain charm about the original. Sure, the idea of 7 laps of a literal oval may seem boring, but it's Double Dash's mechanics that make it so cool. More specifically, the items. When you have giant bananas, Bowser shells, and chain chomps flying around the course, races quickly devolve into absolute mayhem, and I can't think of anything that epitomizes Mario Kart better than that does. One of my other favourite tracks is Daisy Cruiser, because the concept of a race taking place on a cruise ship makes absolutely no sense, and yet it somehow works. The hazards play into the whole theme, with a swimming pool that you can fall into and tables that move from side to side as the boat rocks. You've also got Waluigi Stadium, a big dirt bike arena type of thing, with rings of fire to jump through and mechanical piranha plants to dodge. Sherbet Land is a track that catches quite a bit of flack, but personally, I don't get the hate. Sure, it's not my favourite track in the game, we'll get to that one shortly, but the ice physics, freezies, and skating Shy Guys don't really bother me. The whole course is generally pretty wide, so there's a lot of room for error to make sure you don't go slip sliding away. Mushroom City is one I came to appreciate a lot more on a replay, as it handles the nighttime traffic vibe perfectly and feels very hectic with all the paths that you can take. Then there's Yoshi Circuit, and hey, did you guys know that this track is shaped like a Yoshi? In all seriousness, I like this one a lot with some of the shortcuts that you can take and the bonus appearance of the Yoshi Copter, but the one that comes after is, in my humble opinion, peak Mario Kart. A legendary course that has cemented itself in the Hall of Fame of the franchise, and to me, is the greatest track of all time. What I'm referring to here is the one, the only, DK Mountain, baby. Dude, I love this track so much. It is so iconic for so many reasons. You've got the little stretch at the beginning where the music starts to build up, and then bam, you're instantly hit with the first ever barrel cannon in Mario Kart history as the beat kicks in. You shoot through the sky while the character in the back of your kart screams, holding on for dear life as you approach the summit of the mountain, where you can see the face of the volcano staring down at you. Then the descent begins. When you're at the top, you can see the starting line way off in the distance, showing you how massive in scale this track is. The mountain itself is super bumpy, which lends itself well to the floaty physics of Double Dash. Even though this game didn't have a trick system, each jump felt so impactful here. You also have to take care not to get smashed in the face by the boulders that rain down on you, and just when you think you're safe, you're hit with a sharp 180-degree turn with no guardrails to stop you from falling into the void. If you're feeling particularly brave, you can even try and jump over it, which saves a lot of time, but is very punishing to to fail, which adds an interesting element of risk and reward. And then, there's one final element to close out this masterpiece of a track, the infamous bridge. Given how narrow and wobbly it is very easy to fall off here, and it's one of the places where you're most susceptible to getting Mario Karted in the whole series. Just ask Daisy. Overall, DK Mountain is an all-round fantastic course, serving as an intense finale for the Star Cup and teeing things up perfectly for the Special Cup. Said Special Cup is one of the best in the franchise and is filled with 4 incredible tracks. You start with Wario Coliseum, a track so long that it had to be cut down from 3 laps to 2. It has some insane jumps and such a cool aesthetic, but to this day, it still hasn't been remade, and that is criminal. Dino Dino Jungle is the second of 2 jungle tracks in this game, and while I don't think it quite reaches the heights of DK Mountain, it's still able to stand on its own 2 legs. One of the coolest things about this one is the way Yoshi is used as a hazard as well. Towards the beginning, you have to dodge his legs as he stomps around, and later, you loop back over that section of the track on a bridge where you have to dodge his head. Naturally, the penultimate course of the Special Cup is Double Dash's own Bowser's Castle, and to me, this felt like the first modern iteration of this theme. You've got the split path at the beginning, the signature 90-degree turns, and of course, a giant Bowser statue that breathes fireballs at you. It's a hard track for sure, but not as hard as Rainbow Road. Everything about this one just feels so final. The lack of guardrails, the massive jump, and who could forget the spiral. With all of the boosters, keeping control of your kart is a real challenge here, but you feel like a boss when you pull it off without falling. The track has an awesome atmosphere to it as well, with the starry night sky and the city down below, which, when you look closely at the layout, you can actually see as Mushroom City. A lot of the tracks are interconnected in this way, like how you can see Daisy Cruiser from Peach Beach, or the aforementioned Mushroom City from Mushroom Bridge. The music is also a joy to listen to. It's probably my favourite Rainbow Road soundtrack from the entire series. It mixes in the leitmotif from Mario Kart 64, but with a more magical feeling. It genuinely brings a tear to my eye. It also gave rise to the greatest video known to mankind, so it gets bonus points for that. It's called a road, it's called a rainbow road. It is a road that you go. It's called a road, it's called a rainbow road. And you will know when you get there. Oh, sorry, I'll stop. Now, if you're really up for a challenge, then after beating all of the cups in this game individually, you can also partake in the All Cups Tour. This is exactly what it says on the tin. You just play all 16 tracks straight in one gigantic Grand Prix. If you've ever got about an hour to kill, definitely give this a shot. It's an absolute blast to play, especially in co-op mode. Mario Kart Double Dash may not have sold the most copies in the series, but it'll always hold a special place in my heart. The track selection, the character roster, and the sound design are all exquisite, and it has some of the best multiplayer in the whole franchise. In most cases, each Mario Kart game is an improvement upon the last, so there's rarely a reason to go back to prior entries, but Double Dash brings its own flair by allowing you to have 2 characters per kart. And that is what makes this game so irreplaceable. That, my friends, is why I love Mario Kart Double Dash.